Good. I was going to say good afternoon, everyone, but it's not. It's good afternoon to Kermit. It's good morning to Args, and it's good early evening for me. How is everyone?
Plenty of time zones covered. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is. How are you all? Welcome along, Kermit. Pleasure to have you here. And
Absolutely.
Firstly, can I say a big thank you to taking time out of your weekend to join us here? Thank you very much, mate.
Appreciate it. Of course. That, mate. Thank you.
It's exciting times right now as we're on our approach. So the hours tend to vary this time of year, but I'm loving it. This time of the cycle is, one of the most fun. Getting to see everyone so excited, and we're almost there. We're almost
so
there,
close.
People.
So close. It was. I must admit, it was great to see you in your element last week with the case event and everything like that. You were just the consummate professional, and it was a pretty cool event.
It was,
and just I think we commented afterwards. Everything just went like clockwork, which was amazing.
I can't believe, honestly, how smoothly things went. At first, I was kind of sad. I was going through the pictures. I was like, the back of my head is only in 2 of these pictures that the videographer took. But then I was watching through the videos with my wife, and she was like, "There you go, there you go." Yeah. I'm like zooming all around in the background, right? It was an absolute blast to do, and to be in that element, as you said, Argsy. To have something come from an idea in my head to that execution on that day, and how smoothly it went. It was pretty. It was an awesome feeling for sure.
Cool. Well, actually, it's probably worth sitting. We maybe spend a little bit of time on the influencer event first before we jump into some FS25 stuff proper, because that was the first time that Giants have done anything really with an English-speaking community separately to doing a kind of like a full group event, haven't they?
Yeah, well, especially in the U.S. office. I mean, you guys did Llama last year that Farmer Cop and the rest of you guys helped out, chipped in for that community meetup. But this was like the first real official thing that, I feel like the U.S. office has done of this magnitude for sure. And it was great because it was just an international event. I mean, like I said, I feel like the English speaking community were spread out all over the world. We got Argsy over there. Like you said, it's morning time for him. And we're all over the place. So you guys also have a lot of following within North America with your audiences and other places in the world. So it was cool to get that group together, and Luis from Brazil as well. It was cool to have him there. So
yeah.
It was nice because it accomplished a goal, but also gave back to you guys, which was kind of part of the whole idea with the event. Was, of course, we used it to promote the game and market it, but it was also a good way to reward all the hard work that you guys are putting in on a daily basis for what you do for our game. So it was cool to be able to execute it for sure.
And Case as well, right? What a partner to end up doing it with. I think that that's testament to what you've got as a product when companies of that size are so willing to work with you and want to have their machinery in the game, and that, I mean, they were fantastic, weren't they?
Top notch.
Yeah.
I think that they have a little bit like of a forward thinking mentality with how they saw the event, because for them, it was just a bunch of farm sim YouTubers, but they've really embraced our game as a way to reach a younger audience, to get people interested in their brand that they wouldn't normally otherwise be reaching. So they were super excited for what all of our guests represented. I mean, collaboratively between everyone there, we're talking about, millions of subscribers, millions of views. So of course it was kind of a no-brainer for them as well to do those things, and it's kind of an effort that they want to achieve. But for us, it was part of the reason we put the office in the Chicago area, and it was nice to finally be able to execute something like that with one of our brand partners nearby, because it was only about an hour up the road from the office, and they were super easy to work with, and really easy event to execute because of the proximity and things like that, so I couldn't have been more grateful to them and what they provided, the venue, the expertise that they provided, those guys, the retirees that led the tours and tractor driving.
They were amazing, those guys.
Yeah. That knowledge you guys got from them. I'm kind of jealous. That's like the one part I didn't get to experience, because I was running it on the other side as those guys. The time that you've got with them must have just been absolutely invaluable.
I
Oh, yeah,
sat back
brilliant
through
stories.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was sitting back through my vlog footage last night and watching it, trying to edit it down. And I'm like, I've got about 30 minutes of just talking to these guys in the tractor and the combine about how it works, about what they did in the company and all that sort of thing. And honestly, they fountain of knowledge. But what intrigued me most was they wanted to know more about the game. Like they didn't know about Farming Simulator, didn't know much about it. And they said, what's it actually like in game? What's it like driving a tractor in real life versus the game? What do you do? How does it all work? So they were just as fascinated by what we do as we were by them. So it was a really cool dynamic. It was really interesting. The other thing I was just going to say as well about the whole case thing, and it worked really well in with Giants, but they were so receptive to us, and we've created some context through it. There might be some future opportunities through it as well with case, which is just amazing. It's the future looks rosy in that front. It looks awesome. Some cool things to them, I think.
Yeah, and both of you guys got to fly around the world because of you started creating content for farming video games a few years ago. It's pretty wild, isn't it?
It's mad when you put it into the context of that, isn't it? That 4 years ago it was just like I literally put a video up to see what would happen, and you kind of hear now, and it's not. I still like pinch myself every day that this is a thing. But yeah, no, it's amazing.
I think what you did really well with it as well, though, was the group of people in there. There's no egos. There was none of that. Like the community is, and we talked about that a lot. And the farm sim community in general is just such a chill, relaxed, collaborative, helpful group of people. And the 20 that you had there just fitted that bill perfectly. And we all got on like a house on fire. Had a couple of nice nights after the event and having a drink and dinner and that sort of thing together. It was just a great bunch, and it just reflected on the farm sim community as a whole. So everyone here in chat and that sort of thing, it's just a cool vibe.
There you go.
Really good group.
Kerm, nice message from Miguel there in the chat.
I saw that. Thank you, Miguel. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. It's a good problem to have, but it has been tougher for me over the years of being at Giants because I have I cover such a wide range of the community. I'm trying to do what I can basically for the entire Western Hemisphere at the moment. And Luis from Connect Modding, who came to the event, like he's in the process of trying to learn English. Like my Portuguese is just absolute zero outside of Obrigado. I can say that. I think most can. But the fact that he's willing to make an effort, and same for me, we're doing what we can to push the game forward despite that language barrier. Luckily, when we're together in person with technology now, you can, use your phone and almost nearly live translate. So, I've gotten more and more work and more stuff that's not exactly like community related. Being the only marketing guy over here, I take a lot of business things on as well, and really are just trying to push the U.S. office forward, along with Nicholas, my colleague, who I'm really glad that you guys at the event were able to meet him in person. Some of you had met him at FarmCon a few years ago, but because we're doing what we can over here, and things are moving, but we're the newest office and we have the least amount of people, so it's natural. We just don't have the same setup that they've had in Europe because they've been doing business there since the beginning. So we'll get there. And this event was a nice first step. And it was really thankful to have not just Case, but Corsair and their companies as well provided us with the equipment to be able to make the event happen. So we were able to get it done and over the line. That's what matters the most.
That's very cool.
So actually on that point, Kerm, about kind of there's a lot of questions recently about how can you get involved in the farm sim community? How do you end up getting to a point where you end up at an event like this, and what do you need to do? And I think there's maybe like a lack of understanding of what goes into being a content creator in terms of, let's be honest, when I started in lockdown, and when Args started, we were only a few months apart. There weren't that many content creators about. There was more, and they were growing. But now we've got this huge community of people creating content for Farm Sim. But I think they don't know what you've got to do beyond filling in the form and becoming part of the partner program. But what is it? What is it that you do to I don't know, stand out from everybody else?
Gosh, that's $1 million question, isn't it? I feel like I should be asking you
Potentially
guys that
could be.
question.
Almost not from a content creation perspective, but
Yeah.
almost getting involved in the community and just
I guess-
being a part of it.
I think it takes a lot of effort. What were you going to say, Args?
I was just going to say you could turn it around another way, and from your point of view as a community coordinator, your fingers on the pulse with who's doing the different content. There's people there I've met that I wasn't really that familiar with, pretty much more on the Twitch side of things. So, are you finding these smaller content creators? Are you seeing what they're doing online? Are you aware of them? Guys like 4B Gaming, he was there as well. Tony Myth, those kind of people. Are they getting in touch with you? Or are you getting in touch with them? What's the?
It's a little mix of both for sure. I see what Yost has said. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves because, let's just celebrate this event first, and we'll see what the future holds. But I think that the thing that goes with trying to get notice is that you just have to make yourself known. You have to make an impact. It doesn't matter what way you make it or how big or small you perceive it to be. If it's an impact you're making on the community in a positive way, whether it be that you are a YouTuber, Twitch content creator, and you're getting a lot of positive views and traction on your content, or if you're making mods that the community really enjoy, and more importantly, you're making mods and releasing them in the right way, and making sure that you're not breaking any rules there, contribute to the community in a positive manner. Or it could just be that you're volunteering your time to come to an event and offer to help out, or there's so many things, and it is really tough to sit there and say that. I don't think that an in-person meeting is required, but it does go a long way for us to get to know someone. My job, of course, it's easier for me to know the community because it's my job to go out and look for you all. So as my time at Giants has gone on, I get less and less time to spend with individual people because there's more and more people that I've discovered to keep up with. But at the same time, it is super helpful for someone like Boris, for example, our head of publishing and our CSO, who came to the event that we held last weekend. For him, he has seen you guys and a couple others at FarmCon before, but he's never had that amount of time devoted solely to chatting with you guys on that kind of level. So it's important for other people within the company too to see you come to these events and out and about. And so it's expensive to travel, and it's not required, but that does go a long way. I mean, Argsy, you live in New Zealand. I live in the Chicago area. We've seen each other how many times in the last 18 months? 3 or 4 times, right? So
I have friends that live 5 kilometers away from me who I see less than I see you two.
Right.
That's the way it is.
Right.
But that's one of the reasons as well. It was really nice to be able to get people that aren't able to travel out, to be able to get them to this event, because I had not met the likes of Tony in person before, the likes of 4B. There are people doing a lot for our community that I still haven't met and maybe never will meet. So don't get it twisted that I'm saying you have to come to these things, but you just need to do something to get yourself known. If you can't make it to an event, then do it another way. I think that the best thing you can do is just show the impact that you're making on the community. Because if you just say, hey, I'm so-and-so, then okay, but why should I remember this conversation in your name? Give me a reason what you're doing for the community. It doesn't matter, for me. So
yeah. Good advice. And I think Yoss put something up there. It's not all about content creators and streamers. The modding community equally are as impactful, like you said, Kim. So for sure,
everyone is. Yeah, I mean, comments made, feedback given, it all makes an impact. It's just
even Miguel. Miguel's one of the moderators for all the Farm Sim channels. And that was because you got to know him and he made an impact on you. So Yep, there's many ways in.
Yeah.
All right. I see there's a lot of questions in here about the third map in FS25. So we should probably move on to some FS25 chat, shouldn't we? Just for clarity, though, the third map is Zolonka. It is. It will be an updated to 25 spec version of that map, so it'll get all the new nice features like fog and dynamic ground and all of that. But in essence, it will be the same PDA layout with fields in the same place and the buildings in the same place. But that is the third map for 25.
Exactly how Erlangar came to 22. It was
22.
The premium expansion map for 19 and was brought through to 22. So
that's right. In terms of, I know we've been asked this a few times, Kermit. In terms of the platinum, so the silver and forest elements, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, or if you have to say no comment, say no comment. I believe the map is not coming, but the equipment is. Is that my understanding?
Within maybe some limitations, you're correct in saying it that way. Like, unfortunately, between versions, like licenses may drop, or maybe a brand doesn't want this piece of equipment anymore. So maybe not everything, but that is a good assumption to make. And if you guys, we've already talked about a little bit. I think there's more information coming out in the magazine and in the future about like the trees and how that has really kind of changed, not just how we build maps, but also for modders as well, to be able to utilize the tree system that was introduced in Silver Run on all maps now, so that the trees are populated differently and don't take up as much resources, but you can still see more of them on the map. So they've been optimized a bit better. So yeah, yes and no, I guess, was my answer.
Fair enough.
Yes, no, and no comments.
Yeah.
We've already seen
all of them.
I guess some of the things from Silver Run, we've seen some of the winches and things like that. Some of those features that were added in, the spray cans, we saw those in the hand tool blog last week. So safely say that will be part of the base game and coming through. So it's it's nice to see those features that have been progressively added through the game carrying on through into the new versions, which is nice.
That's an interesting question from Chinook as well, in terms of will mod maps have access to the new features like fog and deformable ground?
I don't have an answer on that one. Like most things related to mods, that information will be talked about after the editor's out. So I can't really talk a whole lot on that right now. I do know that like the magazine that comes out like tomorrow and maybe is already out in some places has some mentioning about some of the improvements that have been made for modders. So there is some stuff that will be interesting to modders that have changed between versions, but I can't really speak to the specifics of what they are at this time.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I know there's a lot of questions in here. There's, will we get manual attach, and will pumps and hoses be base game for FS25? Basically, if we would tell you if we knew. So at this point, we're as in the dark as you, and I think we'll only be able to find out once we get a hold of the game proper. Kerm's already said, he said last week, we don't want to tell you everything, because that kind of spoils day one, right? There's got to be a load of stuff that we have to discover on day one for ourselves, which I think is great, because, I'm kind of hoping there might be a big ticket item that we don't know about yet that will come out on day one. But like I said, you're kind of, it makes sense to hold some stuff back and let people discover for themselves, which is also interesting when you consider how much stuff we've been told about already and how many changes that we've seen already. So from that perspective, that kind of makes me quite excited.
And we were talking just beforehand, Kermit, that you haven't actually played the final full version of the game.
No, because you guys have probably played it more than I have now after the event last weekend.
So there's things in there that you actually don't know because you haven't been hands on with it. Whereas if you're in the German office, it's a bit more accessible. So when you say you don't know, you actually don't know.
I really wish that my job was just to sit and play Farm Sim all day and just be happy with it. Yeah, right. But unfortunately for me, I have all these other projects going on and this and that really does take away from. I had a chance to play like a really, really early build when I was in the German office earlier this year, right around FarmCon. in between, like I did TwitchCon EU in Rotterdam and I did FarmCon. My colleague Lucas was like, hey, I can put it on my computer and I'm going to be off like doing some other task. You can play it today and tomorrow. I'm like, oh, that sounds awesome. I got maybe 10 minutes in the end to do it. Like,
a day job got in the way.
Yeah, also, I mean, there's too much to do, you know? So.
Yeah. It's also amazing how quickly an hour goes, like at the case event, how quickly that hour went, and sort of you had a plan of what you might want to try and see and record, and I ended up getting stuck on Hoods and Pantai for 55 minutes at that hour. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun.
It does. It does. Speaking of new information, Jesse O'Brien's put in the chat there, let's talk about animal grazing as per the magazine. Now, I know we may have already asked Kermit behind the scenes what else he can tell us, and we were met with a very swift nothing. So we're going to have to make some assumptions for now. But it's funny that, Args, you and I talked about when we saw how the clickable area for creating the rice fields came out. One of the things we said then was, well, that would lend itself to potentially being able to create your own shaped grazing pastures, didn't it? So I'm delighted it's coming. I think it's going to be a big improvement. It's something the community's been asking for a long time. And I think actually 25 in general, there's a lot of stuff the community have asked for that's in this game, which I think is really, really good. I suppose my frustration is now you've seen people like I put my deformable ground video out after the event last week, and it's almost like, oh, I don't like it now. Now I've seen it, I don't like it. And you're like, you've got to start somewhere though, right? It's going to evolve from here. It's like the AI workers in 25 look night and day compared to 22. And that was a big step forward. So this is another step forward. And, you know, we've just got to, it's just got to evolve over time, right?
It's even the steps forward since, say, FarmCon, for example, where we first saw the AI workers was revealed. And it was at that time, because, you know, we had the opportunity to sit down with Stefan and some of the other team and sort of ask them our own questions. And, you know, we talked about how it would be done, how it's configured. You know, headlands were going to be set at, I think, 2 or 3, and that was going to be the default, and you couldn't change it. There wasn't going to be a menu or anything like that. And then we turn up to play the game for the first time last week, and it's like, wow, there's actually a menu. Look at this. We can change the number of headlands. We can add skip rows. So that was something that wasn't even going to be part of the game until 2 months ago, right? Yeah. And you can see that progress. So don't think they don't listen.
That's what's nice, isn't it? That Giants are like not just, oh, we've decided what we're going to put in and we're going to do this and we're just going to build it over here. They're clearly listening as they're developing and evolving the game. So yeah.
Kind of this like this process where you have to go like, you know, for us, we have to think, all right, we want this feature, you know, the community's been asking for it. And, you know, we've tried in the past with some of these things as well, and they didn't work out in previous versions or whatever. So for us, it's like, okay, we've got this working, but how can we expand on it? It's always this like elasticity almost of like, it needs to be in a state that, you know, is good enough to put in the final product. But if there's still time, okay, we've got this much time, let's improve a bit more. So it's been really nice, honestly, that we've been able to, for me, I've seen a lot more of the process this time being at the company throughout the entire cycle. So to see that it still can change in those moments is really cool. The team is really listening and doing the best they can. It's really our job at the end of the day to keep giving that feedback. And if you're sitting out there and be like, well, I said this and they're not doing that, like that doesn't mean that we're not going to do it in the future as well. So like, don't be disheartened if something you've said doesn't come to fruition. But if we're being honest, if I take my corporate hat off a little bit, sometimes people are just flat out wrong too. Within reason,
it's a personal opinion, not a Giants opinion, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it leads me on to a bit of an interesting question then. In terms of the roadmap for the game development, when do you start thinking about the next game? Is it something that starts as soon as this, you know, let's say 22 released? Do you start putting a roadmap together for what's going to be in 25, what we're going to do to improve the next edition of the game?
I think it starts, honestly, from the features you couldn't get into that version are now going to be the first ones that you look at. Hey, can we accomplish this next time with this extra few years to get things sorted out? So I think it starts there. You know, anything that is kind of cut from one version, is then kind of put on hold to say, hey, maybe that'll come next time. So that does happen a lot. I'm not going to get into like specifics.
No, of course not.
But there's stuff in 25 that, would have been, something we would have loved to have in 22, but it's just kind of the nature of it as well. If it's not in a spot where it's usable now, let's make it usable later. So it really starts right away. But then the bulk of the work still, like, it starts building up as you get closer and closer, obviously. And then you kind of have all of these things that you've thrown up on the board, and you got to figure out again, like, how do we put this into a package that makes it good enough to, say is a new game. And that's important to us as well. We don't want to just give out products that aren't giving you the value the next version around. So it's always kind of a push and pull when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, cool. So basically,
point,
I was just going to say, basically, just to follow up with that, if these comments are seen now about it'd be great to have this, or great to have that, and the community share it, as we've seen with 25, there's a lot of that sort of community requested features that have come through. Yep. Don't be afraid to keep mentioning them, saying them. I'd just say, don't be bitter if it's not in there. That's the main thing. Is it's a bummer they haven't put that in. Just say, it'd be great to see. Let's be positive about what features we've got, what features you'd like to see added in the future, because you don't know who's watching, who's listening.
I mean, as long as the game keeps, like, it's been getting stronger and stronger. 15 years now that we've been in business, or 16 into now. So, but really, like, we're just getting going into like a different direction. So the more that you guys enjoy it, the more that you guys contribute, like we were talking at the very beginning, how do you get involved in the community? Like, all of these things honestly go hand in hand. The more the community grows, the more success that YouTubers and Twitch streamers have, the more success our game can have, the more sales that we get around the world contributes to the company growing. Now we're going to be self-publishing the Project Motor Racing, or publishing it for another developer for the first time. So, like, that's a good step in the growth for the company and for FarmSim as well. So, it's a process, and as long as we keep moving forward in the direction we have been moving in, then it'll just continue to keep getting better and better. And that's important to remember, is like, it may, like, I think people sometimes get caught up, like, this version needs to be perfect or something like that. And it really just needs to be the right version at the right time. And for us, we want to get as near perfect as we can each time we do it, but we always know that there's going to be something to learn from, something you can always do better next time. So
and there's a balance, right? You only have that many developers, so you have to choose where you focus the efforts, and where you have to go, actually, it would be great to do that. And I'm sure these conversations happen all the time. It would be great to do that over there, but if we do that, we might have to take 3 things out of the game on this side. And then it's that balance and that call that you have to make, right?
It's interesting you brought up the Project Motor Racing and sort of Bovine's comment there about random breakdowns. I mean, I guess damage in that in racing games is quite a fundamental to them. If you crash, you damage your car. That could be something that could be a positive out of Project Motor Racing, some sort of physics engine, something that could see those kind of random breakdowns, mechanical issues become part of Farming Simulator of the future. That's pure speculation. It's not guaranteed or anything like that, but that's where this partnership could see those sort of things coming in the future.
It's a good place to go to with speculation, though. Like, it's naturally, I mean, I see why you went there with that, and it will make us better. They're going to, like you said, there's going to be things they need our engine to be able to do specifically to racing that maybe we haven't thought of before, or haven't been able to achieve, and vice versa too. So it's going to be better for both at the end of the day that they're using the engine. And I know that people do make comments they would like to see us change the engine, but I don't think there's anything more like fundamentally like at the core of Giants than the engine. So, like, while I get why you think switching to Unreal Engine would bring the game even more success, that's not like the full story. You have to think about, really, in comparison, think about the size of Giants compared to the size of Epic Games, who own the Unreal Engine, right? It would cost us money to switch, and we would have to learn completely new stuff, and we wouldn't have our own engine anymore that, like, we are the ones building. Not only are we building the game, we're building each version of the engine to be able to achieve the things that we need to do in the game. So it's the right situation for our game. at this time and going forward. It really is.
Yeah,
to
I'm
be in a
taking my
position.
content creator and farm sim hat off and putting my businessman hat on. It's your IP. Like you're in so much stronger position if you have your own game engine. And like you said, even if you switch to a different engine, it would have to be such a customized version of that engine that the
Yeah.
moment Unreal or whoever you move to did an update, the volume of work
Right.
that you have to do to bring it's not.
It takes away
commercially
so much
sensible.
control from you. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Like as soon as they update it, like it's something that you're not prepared for. Like they're controlling how the engine goes forward instead of you. It's so much better to have that in-house and say, we know exactly what state this engine is in, and here's how we can push it to the next level. And we have been doing that with each version of the game. And just being able to finally do something like ground deformation in the engine, for example, like you said, it's now a building block.
Yeah.
And you know, who knows what the future holds when it comes to the physics and things like that, because of both our game, Project Motor Racing, and who knows, maybe there's even more in the future too. So
Yeah.
it's good times right now, for sure, for us in the state of the game.
100%. And actually, talking about new features, I know we got the blog on.
Put my architect head on, right? Yeah.
Well, I'm going to touch on that now. Obviously, we saw the blog the other day on the building of the farmhouses, and I was a little bit disappointed off the top of my head, thinking, well, I missed a trick there, not being able to build barns. However, there are buildable barns coming as well, as we found in the Silver and map. So, although it's not been mentioned, there is other buildable structures as well. So, I'm quite excited for that stuff as well.
Yeah, that stuff is really cool. And like, I learned about the hand tools from the blog. No lie, like I thought that was like a cool thing. Like I didn't know this was a feature. I feel like my brain is so like at the like higher level features, right? The marketable ones that, at least from our point of view, not saying this isn't marketable, but like the ones that we're really pushing out there that are maybe aimed at a more casual player, whereas something like this is like hand tools. I was like, as a fan of the game myself, I was like, what? That's so cool. So it's an exciting thing to see.
I got very excited just when I casually found the flashlight when we were playing last week, and I was like, oh look, there's actually a flashlight in your hand you can see, and that got me pondering, obviously with third person, you know, how that's going to work, and you're going to see these sort of things, and all those changes with that. So yeah, and it's if you look at it in isolation, you'd think, oh, hand tools isn't much added to the game, but it's when you start adding up everything that's added to the game that it just as an amalgamated collection of features, and you've got the big ones like
the potential for modders to build on it, right?
That's right. Yeah. That's right. And I said that in my video was, you know, you could have a tool wall, and you could actually go and grab a hammer off the tool wall, and things like that. There's the potential for modders to take that just that step further, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's right. Here's a slightly controversial one from Purple Runner, but it's one that does come up all the time in terms of PC versus console, and console limitations that apparently hold back the game. And I think if we can argue now that with the dropping of the older gen consoles, it's unfortunate that but the gaming world has moved on, and tech has moved on, and PS5s and Xbox X's are now powerful as a decent sized PC. So, where do you stand? I mean, because you've got at one end of the scale, you've got the incredibly hardcore. We want a simulation, a bit more like flight sim, where every button and every thing in the dashboard is clickable, and you can't, you want a manual attach and all these features that don't probably appeal to a lot of people. But and then the other hand, you've got a younger audience usually, or people who just want to kick back on a Friday night after a busy week of work and just relax and play something relatively easy.
I was going to say that, Kim.
Like me.
So, how is it? It's a fine line, right? There's a balance there between keeping everybody happy and not upsetting. But Am I right in saying that probably from a console perspective, that's the larger portion of the audience playing the game? Kim?
Yeah, I don't think you can have one without the other. Like without the console side of the game, maybe we're not able to support the PC side. I think everyone needs to just learn to get along in this sense, because I get it. I get the question about, and maybe that is possible in the future. I don't know. But I will say that, at the end of the day, we're in the business of people, as many people playing the game as possible, making it open to be customized so that as many people can play it as possible. So while I won't say no, it won't ever happen that like a DLC could unlock more capability for like a PC version.
Yeah.
That's not something personally I would recommend as the community guy, because for me, I think when I think community, it means everyone and not just trying to segment here and there for the sake of one over the other. I think that it just has to be accepted at the end of the day that maybe PCs don't get to do as much because of consoles, and maybe it's the other way around too, in a different way, because console is huge for our game. With just most people prefer to play games this way. It's a lot cheaper entry point. Farming Simulator is a game that can be like extra complicated on top of just playing the game itself. So having to know PC and technical side of things to get your game working right and set up keybinds, some people just don't want that. So it's
the beauty of the modding community can bring those extras.
Yeah.
If you want, you can customize Farm Sim incredibly to a very a much more simulator based approach if you want to through modding, and I think that's the beauty of it, right? That's where the modders...
it becomes a more and more of a challenge as the game continues to grow to make every facet happy too. So I think that it just has to be accepted that we are going to try to make as many people happy as possible. And that kind of, if you have like a Venn diagram, you're getting your stuff that's in the middle, but you're missing out on your stuff that are kind of the outliers that are maybe more exclusive to your group. And that's just something that has to be accepted for the success of the game and the series going forward. So
there's a question. Is it going to work on Steam Deck?
I think it'll be like, it's not verified, but it's playable like it is for 22. I would assume something similar. Although, you might have to turn some settings down for 25 because it's just that, next jump up. So who knows if a Steam Deck is going to be able to handle it at like the higher settings. We won't know this. I'm sure that it's been tested, but I don't know this information for sure. But I would assume it'll at least be in the yellow playable category, which most games on Steam Deck are.
It's a lot of people have been the same. They've gone from console to PC. I mean, my first experience was console because it came up free on PlayStation Plus. And I know it was at its point earlier this year. 22 was free on PlayStation, Xbox.
And we know from speaking to you, Kerm, you're sitting at your PC now, but you play Farm Sim on your Xbox because it's...
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my PC is like outdated at this point too at home. So like when I stream the game for the company, I'm in the office using the company PC. But I just am at the point anymore where I work all day in front of the computer. My wife and I have TV set up next to each other. So in the living room, just kick back, sometimes play together, sometimes play other games. I do know there's going to be a lot of FS25 played in that living room coming up soon. Like I can't wait. She's so excited about the steering assist. I think with most players, like if you've never had that option before and you're on console, that's got to be one of the things you're most excited for, because now you get to be able to make sure you're doing straight lines and not all over the place.
No, definitely. It's
a huge change.
It's like literally it's kind of revolutionary for console players. And I know we've been spoiled with GPS and crossplay for a few years, but the whole community to have access to that now is a great step forward. Yeah.
Interesting. I know there'd be no way to measure it. It'd actually be an interesting statistic to see how many people play using mods from a user base. We've got 6 million copies of the game out there. I can imagine there's a huge percentage, particularly probably on console, who don't even understand that mods are a thing. And just they've just played the game for 2-3 years using the base game maps and possibly the DLCs and those kind of things.
I always used when I was a content creator, to be honest, I used very minimal mods most of the time, especially early on. And some people just prefer the simplicity in that approach, especially if you're trying to play with a bunch of other people. You're trying to do cross-platform multiplayer. Like, it just makes things more complicated. But again, like, mods do drive the success of our game. They're part of it, especially for the longevity, the likes of you guys who are creating content through the whole cycle, the people who are watching your content, 2-3 years after a game is launched and still engaging with it. They're the ones that are playing with the mods, or the ones checking the mods all day. But there are people in our community that, just don't use mods because that's their preferred approach. And I think it's valid to say that both approaches are good. Like, to be honest, if I was a brand new player outside of knowing what I know and not being a Giants employee, like 25 has a lot vanilla that really you don't need to put as many mods on top of it now. So like, now going forward in the future, like, what kind of mods are you using? Is 400 machines enough for you? 400 plus?
No.
See, that's the problem. The equipment junkies, right? But I also get why equipment is like the biggest thing, because it's like, I want the tractor my grandpa had, or I prefer this piece of machinery for this map. So like, mods are super important, but at the end of the day, it still goes back. Everyone is different, right? So maybe
exactly, it's that individuality, isn't it? It's like, you're a diehard John Deere fan, or you're a diehard Case fan. So, or you, there's maps that come out just down the road from where you live, and there's a sentimental attachment to them as well. So, yeah, you can't. I think it's that classic. You can't keep all the people happy all of the time, but you do as much as you can, right? So, and we're really lucky that the modding community. In fact, that blew Args and I away. And actually, it wasn't a Giants thing; it was a Project Motor Racing thing, when they were saying 10 million mod downloads off the mod hub alone. So ignoring third-party mods, it worked out at something like 10 mods a second being downloaded from the mod hub. And then you think there's maps on there a gig plus in size. That even just the infrastructure to be able to handle that is pretty impressive.
Right.
So that's a kind of question. There's been a lot of talking more about now the release of 25. Has Giants done anything in the back end around server infrastructure and hosting for downloading the game? When you enter your key and hit download, is there anything that's going to speed that up for players? Because I know that
there's going to be a lot of people clicking that button. On the 12th.
Yeah, I have no idea when it comes to that. I do know that we're doing the launch a little bit differently. I'm sure we'll have like some official news about it. It's not different than what we've been doing recently, but different from the launch of 22 at least. But we're kind of prepared for that. But you can only prepare as much as you can as well, because of course, we hope that our goal with this version, of course, is to beat 22. So I don't want to say I want things to break, but if we have like a huge influx of players that we didn't really expect just because the game is being really successful, it's not necessarily a bad problem to have, but we'll just have to react to how that happens in the moment. But I do think that, we're always trying to improve things, so I would expect something, but I can't speak to specifics. I have no clue really what's gone on there. So it's just hope and wait and see.
Yeah. As Yoss said, the infrastructure is costly, and you'd be planning for a peak on day one that probably would never get met again. So there's got to be a little bit of a sort of trade-off there.
Exactly. We didn't expect 22 to peak as much as it did right away. Like, the success of it from the start was so strong, but it was amazing to see. So
I've got a suggestion. You should time base it on region. So when it's midnight in a certain region in the world, they get access, and then stagger it across the rest of the globe. So New Zealand.
See, we did that for 22, and it still didn't work out so smoothly. Yeah, we did a rolling release based off of like midnight in your part of the world, but
I was just trying to get my.
You've got to balance that, haven't you?
Yeah. Trying to get early access in New Zealand.
Gosh, that I don't envy that, having to like be the one responsible to go to all these platforms. And it seems like Valve is like, we'll upload it to Steam when we're well and ready on the west coast of the US. Like, like that is a major version if you're getting the eShop version, and you have to be one of those people to play the first 12 hours the game is out. because Steam, who knows?
You have no control over it again, isn't it? It's working with third parties.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can make the decision when they want to. On that note as well, just in terms of talking about tech, is there anything on? It's been very quiet on the multiplayer front. Do you know if there's been anything changed specifically in that? Whether or not there's, I mean, we know we have to have the little loading screen as new players join a game, and the reasons for that have been explained before. But is there any updates or changes to multiplayer that you can talk about?
I know they've been working on it, so I assume, but I don't know what
Okay.
they've been doing. So
that's good.
it's
We'll take that.
ready.
If they've been working on it, that means something's happening. That's good.
Yeah, I have no
Excellent.
clue, unfortunately. I'm not sure what it looks like or anything at this point. So we'll find out.
Interesting. Good.
So
Like
in terms, I mean, we're just over 2 weeks away from release, and I'm assuming because there'll be a patch or something at day one, because, and I'm guessing here is the discs have to be pressed for PlayStation and Xbox and physical copies and all of that sort of thing. So there would have been a line drawn in the sand somewhere around the development cycle of the game, and anything done after that would be a patch that'll come at day one. Is that fair to assume?
Yeah, for sure. Always. I mean, this is the nature of it. You get to that certain cutoff line and you go, but hey, we still were optimizing this and that. So I think in gaming in this day and age, the day one patches come to be expected for the majority of games. So it'll be the same for us again. So yeah, there'll be a day one patch. And we'll see how it goes from then on. Of course, we'll do our free content updates. We'll do patches here and there like we did for 22 as well beyond that. But I would definitely expect a day one patch for sure.
Yeah, like you say, it's the ability now to push a patch out over the internet that, you didn't have that luxury in the past. So
I mean, I think some people don't believe that, you guys were playing on the build at last weekend that was already at that point 5 or 6 weeks old. If we had given you the build that was ready that week, it would have been showing off way more than we even wanted to show off. So that's just the nature of how these things work. And so, yeah, we've well moved on to a different build now. And when they're back at work tomorrow, who knows where they're at in that state. So it's a constant evolution, right? Because the work on the game doesn't stop on November 12th. That's for sure.
No, absolutely.
It's interesting. I mean, I've always reflected on this and talked about it with people a lot, is how much the gaming industry has changed in that respect, and how much, I guess you could say, the internet's made it better because you can fix those issues. But you think back to when all you could buy was a disc and you had no network connection, your PS2 or whatever it was, and how, and this is showing my age, of course, but and half the people here probably don't appreciate this, but the game had to be complete. There was no chance to patch it. There was no way you could give an update to fix something. So of course, the number of games being released and the frequency of their release and that sort of thing was a lot slower, and probably the content in those games was a whole lot different. But it's just amazing, just reflecting on the gaming industry as a whole, how those kind of things have shifted and changed over a very short period of time, really.
I also remember, like, when I was a kid, like Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64 games that cost like $70. And now people are complaining about like AAA titles that are $70.
I know, right?
Games have never used to be this expensive, but like, man, they were back in the 90s.
I'd actually argue games are the one thing that haven't shifted in price much, considering the cost of living and ongoing price increases people have been facing over the past few years.
Right. I think, like, of course, the cartridge technology was just expensive, an expensive way to make a game. So
that's right.
Putting it on disc kind of alleviated that for a bit, but now it's kind of met back up to where it is for most titles. So things kind of come in waves, don't they?
Yeah. So I just want to talk. So Gradman Farms has put a comment. It's no early access, even though download date on your PS5 is on the 10th of November.
So if it says that, it's because it's going to be midnight in Europe that it unlocks.
Right. So it's not, because some games as well, like just trying to think, there's games where they allow a preload and it's time locked as well. So you can actually download the game 2 or 3 days earlier. So you're not actually having, and that might be a technique that, say, Sony or Microsoft use to spread that server load across theirs. You're not having this game release.
You can typically preload like on both consoles for most games. I know for sure. But if your console is saying a date of the 11th, then that's not really technically early access. That's just you being lucky to be in a time zone that you can make use of it being your evening time instead of the middle of the night. So,
Interesting.
See, somebody put, are we ever going to get an English map or a British map? There we go.
Never say never.
Pass.
Never say never. Exactly. Maybe check out the Year 1 DLC and draw your conclusions from that. That's all I'll say.
Their words, not mine.
There's a Highland cow on the image that I've seen. That's all I'm saying.
What was there was an earlier question as well about, I think Bosun asked that about the collector's edition does not include the Year 1 season pass, so it's, you have to purchase that separately.
That's right. Yeah,
using the code Argsy Gaming at the Giants web store.
Yep, Argsy Gaming. Let's get him to silver. I'm trying to think what else we're going to talk about. Well, there's one thing I was interested. This is just me being nosy, really, Kim. But obviously, you've spent a lot of time developing this game. What do you see as as an employee of Giants? What do you see over the next, or kind of in the last couple of months that's different to the 6 months before in terms of what are the team doing? What are they preparing for? What are they getting organized for and ready for launch? What does that? Is there a shift? Do you feel a noticeable change in what people are working on in the office and stuff?
It's actually really been helpful for me to be an employee at Giant Software because most of my colleagues are just so calm. Like, it really surprises me, especially being a fan of the game. Like, if I were in their shoes, like, luckily for you guys, I'm not the one responsible for making the game. Because I don't think my coding would go so well. But like, it's amazing to me that it is really just like kind of more of like a method for them, right? Like, for them, it's a constant state of trying to improve their skills. And they're thinking like within their realm, maybe they're a 3D artist, so they're trying to improve all the time, like the quality of their models, or they're a programmer, so they're trying to improve their coding. They're trying to reduce the amount of errors maybe that it creates. They're trying to learn new strings of code. So it's a different environment, I think, when you break it down, right? Like, there's all these moving parts that go into games. But from the marketing standpoint, for us, it gets easier, really, because the hardest part for us was the pre-stream that Martin and I did way back before FarmCon, because we're showing the gameplay off for the first time, but we only had, a handful of things at that state that were ready to be shown. We don't want to show everything else, of course, because we want you to learn about them as the process goes through, but it gets easier for the marketing team because the product we had back then was a lot harder to sell than the product we have now. Just to put it plainly, because now there's so much more that we can talk about. I know people got, like, even my mom was like, how much can two guys talk about volumetric fog? Like, that was the kind of, she watched that pre-stream because, mom's like, she always wants to support what I'm doing. She's like, I told her I was doing it. She said, oh, please send me the link. I sent her the link. And she said afterwards, that was her comment. Well done, son, but how much can two guys talk about volumetric fog? She wasn't wrong. By the way, huge props to both of you guys above me in the picture right now. Both of you were two of the only, if not the only ones that thought to advance time during your recordings and showed the fog going off the map, because I know a lot of people in the community have been like, I hate this fog. It's there all the time because you're only seeing it, like, the footage is happening in the mornings. We, of course, really love it because it's something we've not been able to achieve before. So it shows for us, like, a step graphically. But FSG, especially, like, you went 360 times speed, and like how zoomed out you were in your video, you could just see it,
and it just beautifully rolled away.
Yeah.
So, but what was nice though, even when I paused it, even when I paused it after I'd sped it up, it was still, there was bits hanging in the trees and in the lower ground under where the rivers were and stuff, and it was just it's nicely done. I think you're right. You might have maybe over-indexed on it in the first announcement, so everybody thought this is just literally going to be switched on the whole time. But
daytime, nighttime, all the time.
It's subtly done now. I like it. I like it a lot.
I got to. So little bit of insight. So the day last week at Case was split into 4 sessions, and FSG had the first session to record the game, and I had the last. And I think you'd said to me during the day, you said, make sure you check out the fog disappearing. So give props to you for that part.
It's nice
Video.
There you go. I'll take it.
So interesting, there's a couple of comments there about the Moz R5 as a wheel and that sort of thing. One thing that has been asked a lot of times, and I know you won't be able to answer this, Kermit, but just something as a little bit of feedback or I guess what people are looking for is how configurable the keybinds might be for peripherals. So like sitting here at the moment, I've got a controller, a steering wheel, a joystick, potentially a second joystick I'd all want to have plugged in at the same time, yet there's only the 2 columns in 22 to configure those kind of keybinds. So whether there's going to be any improvements, we don't know. We couldn't see the menus. I know Kermit doesn't know because we talked to him about it last week. But in terms of I guess a gameplay improvement, that'd be something that'd be.
That is good feedback. Yeah, because I know people, and like I made this joke at FarmCon. You guys were able to get in and see the ignition lock that's in the collector's edition.
Yep.
And like I made the joke in the room, like with Christian, our CEO, I was like, if we keep giving out these devices, Christian, like, in several versions in the future, it's going to have to be like a giant software branded USB hub that we give out in the collector's edition because people are running out of ports to plug it in. It's the same for keybinds too. Like the more you start plugging in, the more you are, you're running out of space. So I hope that's an addition, but definitely don't know for sure.
And it's I mean, that's another thing to talk about over the last, or the FS22. Previously, there was the Logitech heavy equipment bundle with the Cytec prior to that, before it was rebranded and purchased. But the last 3 years, we've had Thrustmaster have brought out the farm stick. We've had Hori with their vehicle control system. We've seen Moz have brought out their truck system as well, which is kind of works with the game. It's great to see so many more of these companies, I guess, partnering with giants in some respect, because I know there are some partnerships there, but also just on their own, adding to the breadth of peripherals you can have for the game. So kind of that,
it's a shame there's not more for console. We'd like to see more for console in that respect, but maybe that'll change in the not too distant future.
That would be cool for sure.
There's Omatana in the chat here asking, this is probably the most important question of the night, actually, because I've not seen them in any of the footage so far. Where are the deer, Kermit?
The animals should be there. Like,
I have to find out.
Pretty sure they'll be back. Maybe they've just been hiding. I don't know what's going on with that.
There you go. Hang on. I saw that. I saw this week. Where are we? Let me just find the window. There we go.
Motorbike. There it is. In the distance.
It's on the trail in the background.
There it is.
All right.
There we go.
Not slipping any deer past this guy.
No.
There you go, Omatana.
That was my hunting eye. My hunting eye picking that one up.
Look at the smiley face.
Yeah.
I wish. Oh, that's a good question. Relaxing Disney asking there. Why is there no collector's edition for console?
I guess that's a really good question. I don't know the actual answer to it, but I would just say that the ignition lock is for PC only. So if you remove that out of the box, what is there really to make it a collector's edition for people on console? You have the stickers that are included, but other than that, you're getting the game and some stickers. So I would love to see it one day, and I get why people want it. But at the end of the day, like most of our game sellers are going digital as well, and the collector's edition really is meant for like the most hardcore fans, so. But gaming seems to be going back the other way now. Like people are starting to speak out and say, "Hey, I want a physical copy of my games again."
Yeah.
To really feel that ownership over them. So who knows what the future looks like with that shift?
Yep. No, interesting. Very good.
Actually,
okay.
There was something else I was just going to ask about. Monitors. We haven't seen anything about this. Whether there's any dual monitor support or anything like that. Again, I know you won't know the answer to that. We'll just have to wait and find out. But there was the comment at FarmCon about being able to potentially customize and configure where your overlays and your GUI was set up on the screen. So we haven't seen anything on that any further than what was mentioned at FarmCon. So I guess that's just going to have to be a little bit of a find out on the day kind of thing.
And VR is something that comes up quite regularly as well. And we know FS25 is not VR ready because there's a lot of work that need to go into changing the way that the game is set up to be able to do that. But again, it's the sort of thing that if enough people talk about it and ask for it, it's one that goes on the list of potential future developments, right?
For sure, yeah. I get why people want that, and good news is like a lot of these questions will be asked answered either by us or these guys above me and so many other people. Just less than like 2 weeks time. Early access starts on the 8th of November. You'll start seeing content created as early as then when the embargo lifts. And so, yeah, we've only got a little ways to go.
Not too long. It was interesting, actually. I found a tweet from the guy from Project Motor Racing back in May talking about the change to the engine and not confirming where it was, but VR support was one of the big comments he made about that. So that gave me a lot of hope, and VR and motor racing games is a big thing. So potentially, if they can bring that through in their changes to the engine and what they do with the engine, again, another positive flow-on effect to Farming Simulator potentially for the next game.
For sure.
Definitely. Definitely. Right. We've been going for an hour, and it is Kermit's Sunday afternoon, so we're not going to keep him for any longer. But we'll maybe just finish on a light-hearted. What are you looking? I'm going to ask you the same, Args. What are you looking forward to the most, Kermit, in the run-up and launch weekend?
I'm honestly, like, selfishly looking forward to playing the game a lot myself, but over the next few weeks for me, most of my joy is going to come from watching all of you guys start to receive it and see the community continue to get excited about it. So I think that's the most important thing. We could have spent the last 3 years nonstop talking about, hey, 25's coming, this and that. It will never match up to when it's actually out. So for us, it's the moment is almost here, and for us, the work really starts because, we want people to be hyped, and we want to really carry that momentum forward. I think we have a really strong year 1 and year 2 pass coming up too. And so we've even learned from those moments over the past few years. So the hype is what's got me most excited. I love it. I know that there's going to be a lot of working hours for me spent just like fully locked in and engaged over the next few weeks, but man, I love it. During the launch week of 22, I ended up getting COVID like 2 days into it, by the way. So let's just hope that doesn't happen again.
Don't do that.
Like the Wednesday, like literally the day after launch, I was like, man, I've had a headache for 3 days, and it's just the stress of my first ever video game launch, right? And then it just wasn't going away. So I ended up having to take like a day or 2 off. I don't want to do that again. This one is too important, and Benny and I, we need to be there to hold each other up.
DJ reminded you about the could we have some content in year 3?
I was going to mention that earlier too.
We're working on that. I mean, the thing is it's funny how like far in advance you can look forward, at least for us internally, but then also like we can't look that far forward as well, right? Like it's about the future and the here and now for us. So we've got to find that fine balance for sure.
Always the balance, right?
But
I'm no COVID this time, please.
And this is Karen Pop. We're going to play a lot of farm sim. So if it's about the game, then like I'm so excited for GPS. I want to know what the over under is on how long before I fall asleep on the couch with like the guidance steering locked in and wake up and my guys. He's done a straight line, but he's all the way across the map.
Based on experience, it won't be long.
Just don't point at a river before you fall asleep.
A river. Yeah, thank you.
Alex, what about you?
I'm just looking forward to getting in and having, I think, amazing getting to play the game for an hour last week, but it just left me wanting more. And it left me wanting that final version and being able to get in there and actually experience all of those things. And the bits where it was probably the biggest tease was the things we couldn't do. We could go and look at productions, we could go and look at the shop, and the trigger was there, but we couldn't open it.
Get in and have
all
all
those kind of things. It was kind of like foiled again.
It's funny that like we never have the shop in like a preview like enabled, but like everyone wants it to be like every time without fail. It's like, oh, we can't access the shop. I couldn't access it last time either, but I was hoping this time we could.
You never know, something might slip through the cracks. But yeah, no, I just the anticipation for it now. It's 2 weeks away. It's very real, and looking forward to getting in there and creating some content and having a play around with it, and learning more about the game, and how all of those changes and everything that's been added to 25 to make it a new game, how that all works together, and trying out the new crops, playing around more with the new productions, learning more about the new productions. Right.
Yep.
How do we make rope?
Yeah,
that's the one.
You asked me this in person too.
That's the one. That's
my answer hasn't
changed. I'm tearing my hair out, wanting to know how we make rope.
Yeah, you can't have the production and then not tell us how we're going to make it. And that was very early on as well.
It was.
It's gonna be your first video, isn't it, Args?
Well, yeah,
this is how you make rope.
Yeah. I'll make that note now.
Yeah, there you go.
I think also for me, like going back, expanding on my question a little bit, as community coordinator, I fully expect, as any launch does, it'll bring new people from outside the existing community. We're going to have people playing the game for the first time. You guys are a big part of making new players feel welcomed if they're coming out to YouTube or they're just interacting with the community on Discord or wherever it may be. So thank you guys for helping people learn the way. But within the game itself, having the NPCs, basically the Farm Sim Academy has been adapted to be the main basis of what the NPC characters share with you. So new players will be able to learn the game within the game environment without having to leave it, even better than they used to be. So for me, I'm also super excited to see people that have never played the series before get their hands on 25. And I feel like even though GPS is, of course, a real life farm feature, so it's important for the realism side that it was added to the game. New players, it's just going to be huge for them because it's going to be easier for them to control the machinery and get into the process than it ever has been before. So I'm curious to see how the community grows. I think that it's going to be successful for everyone because more people being into the game just brings so much more interest and hype. So I'm excited for those moments too. Outside of the community, of course, that has been supporting us for so many years. I'm also excited to see who new comes into the equation and how they are added to the community. So that's going to be exciting to watch.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just wanted to highlight this comment because I think Giant's way better at teasing and keeping people engaged than Rockstar. In a joking way, but I have to say that the engagement and the information releases and all that has been so engaging.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
Basically since FarmCon, the blogs, and I've been blown away by the different ways that you've engaged with people. So the traditional blogs, the traditional fact sheets, the traditional trailers, but even the little 25-second summary videos and those kind of things. Just give the avenue to reach different audiences. So
the marketing team has shifted and also grown, having Walker, who is a video content creator on the marketing team. He joined at FarmCon. It was literally his first week, I think, and he was running around snapping videos and pictures. But so that's been a huge help, but also just changing the tone of the messaging as well. That was kind of a concentrated effort that we made at the beginning of the year. So I'm not doing as much TikTok now that Walker has been hired, but I remember doing some crazy off the rails TikTok video, and some of the comments in there were the farm sim dev got out of control before we got GTA 6 and things like that. So those memes about comparing us to Rockstar and so much, they're so funny.
Yeah. It's oh goodness, lost my train of thought. Carry on.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I think
we'll forget.
Yeah, that's all right. It's late.
What about you?
It's not late for you.
It's not late, it's early.
What about you, FSG? I want your answer.
Similar to you a little bit, Kerm, in terms of there's a load of folk here who've played the game for years and are staunch fans of it or critics of it, but still play it and want to see more and want to push. I'm really excited that so many pre-sales have happened and there's going to be a whole new set of players discovering it for the first time. And I think you're right, that's good for us as content creators to introduce new people to the game as well. But I just think it helps from the growth of the game, right? They're getting to experience and I know when I first played it, what an impact it made on me in terms of a game. I literally couldn't put it down. And like, this is no criticism of Farm Sim, but if you know, even now when I speak to people about it, they're like, "What? It's a game about farming, and you drive a tractor," and you're like, "Yeah," and they go, "Oh, okay," but look, it's hard to put it into. Well, there's a lot of people here who will get it, but it's hard to put it into words. The impact it sucks you in. It's like a different world, and I like the fact that it's relaxing as well. I used to play first person shooters and things like that, and you'd come off your game after 3 hours more stressed than when you go on. And I love the fact that Farm Sim is almost kind of zen, the way you can just play and go up and down in the field. And we have Discord running, and we have like groups of the community just sitting chatting, and actually the game becomes secondary to the community element. And I think I would love for more people to experience that, because it's a really great way of bringing people together. I've met people from all over the world in the last 4 years because of this game. I've got to travel to different places in the world because of this game. And I think that's the bit that excites me, that new people are going to find that out over the next few weeks, months, and next 3 years. And if they enjoy it as much as I do, they're going to love it.
I think more and more people do experience that and are becoming aware of it. You know, I go to various different events as part of my job, and I've been to 4 different Twitch cons in total now. And like over the course of the years going to them, more and more people, I think it's partly our presence of consistently going to the events. Yeah. People know us from being at the events, but people also know us more from watching their friends create content, or they've seen someone else do it. And even content creators who I think 5 years ago would have never touched a simulation game are looking at our game and they're like, you know what? I play shooters all the time normally on my channel, but I want a different experience. I'm getting kind of like, I'll still play my shooters, but I need something that's just chill and relaxing and engaging. I do think that Farm Sim is super appealing for content creators in that way, because like you said, it becomes secondary in nature. So that's something I often like use as a selling point to content creators. You know, you can play our game. There's always something to do, but there's no real like losing. If you have more realistic stuff on, you could destroy your crops, of course, so on and so forth. But for most players, there's no real like loss happening if you look over here and you drive off the road. You know, all the worst you have to do is reset your machine and you're back on your way. So it's perfect for that, for creating content.
Yep. There you go. Shares making a demand. Kermit. We're working on it, Share. We're working on it.
I would love to, but I just discovered as well that there's a PBR event in North America right before that in Chicago. So who knows? We might be doing something. So we'll see. Yeah.
Bull riding. I'm there.
I was just going to say, so for those who don't know, Giants have been sponsoring the pro bull riding circuit in the US. So that was on in Vegas the weekend we were in Chicago, and sort of caught some footage.
Yeah, Boris jumped over.
Yeah.
That was the team series that just ended. Now there's like a solo series that we're also sponsoring. So there's more events coming up. So we'll see how many people we're able to invite to it, but we are going to start planning something for that and hopefully be able to get a few people in. I don't know exactly how that'll go. We still have to work on it. It's probably too early to even talk about it, but I did it. So
I want to see DJ Goham riding a mechanical bull.
Yeah. I would pay good money to see that.
I would pay good money to see that too.
But like, I just want, like, Benny and I are going to bring streams back. I think like we're going to stream together probably on launch day. So I'm super excited for that as well. So we'll be doing more stuff. You'll see our faces more. And Benny and I are working really well together, but it was like threw him into the fire. Same for me with the launch of 22. He joined even more so in the fire, because it was like, welcome to Giants. Gamescom's in a week and a half. Get ready. So it's been a whirlwind for him, and we've done what we can to get ourselves, working as a unit. But he and I are going to collaborate more. So you'll see more content coming from us as the game launches and beyond too.
Yeah, and worth a shout out for Benny actually, because we notice it as content creators and modders that the impact he's made. He's been a really great addition to the team. So
100%.
Yeah, big shout out to Benny. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to get him out there and meeting you guys more, get his face out there, because he's an awesome guy and he's we're moving positively together for the future to make things as best as we can for the community. So that's what we're all in this together. So let's keep the positive vibes going.
100%. 100%.
Cool, mate. That's a great way to wrap things up, I think, isn't it? We've
It is indeed
taken a good chunk of your Sunday afternoon, so we'll let you
it's all good.
Back to hanging out with Mrs. Kerm and putting your feet up and relaxing before I guess it's the calm before the storm, really, isn't it?
exactly. It is the calm before the storm at the moment. Yeah,
it's the mini storm before the big storm. More like there's no calm.
Yeah, it's like a tornado or something.
Thanks a lot, guys. It's always a pleasure to hang out.
Appreciate it. Thanks to everybody for joining as well.
Thanks,
some great questions, really interesting stuff. Thank you for supporting both me and Args and Kermit and Giants, and thank you for being here for the love of the game. Simple as that.
Absolutely. Good one.
Thanks, everyone.
Right. Take care.
Catch you all later.
Have a good week,
See ya.
folks.
All right.
We'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now.